Hi, welcome to part one of Advertising the Persuasive Media. What are some of the trademarks that you recognize on these babies? People generally see some of these right off the bat, and others you kind of have to look for. Do you know that almost from infancy, we become affiliated with brands? Babies, think Pampers, think Gerber baby food. Simon Anhalt and Jeremy Hildreth, who are researchers in advertising, said we've become brand America. They said we become a consumer culture where personal worth and identity reside not only in ourselves, but in the products we surround ourselves with. What they say is that a brand is a trusted name, the good name of something that's on an offer to the public. They say that out of the 100 most valuable brands, 64 are American. Critics say advertising has created a consumer society that values materialism, greed, and envy above anything else. Some of the other interesting things that were in there was, do you know you're exposed to thousands of advertising images every day? Sometime when you're out, whether you're walking or you're riding your bike or you're driving, count how many ads you see every day. You'll be very surprised. It's some of the places. I always think sides of the bus or the back of the bus. Never think about those. Here's some of the most well-known brands in America. Okay, so we had Instagram and Colgate. Obviously, this is Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Coca-Cola, and then here are some more. You know these brands only by seeing those. Some other brands that we like to think of are those that are related to youth culture. Now, one of the ones I remember the most is MTV. And you saw that logo, you knew immediately that meant some type of music video. Here's the Aflac Duck, Mr. Peanut, and I love the Pillsbury Doughboy. So what is advertising? You have three types. It is any form of non-personal presentation of ideas, goods, and services, usually paid for. Keywords, they're paid for, or an identified sponsor. We have non-personal, we have paid for, and we have unidentified sponsor. So non-personal means the target audience is a large group of anonymous people. It's not earned media, which is public relations, which you'll also learn about in this module. Identified sponsor means the audience should be clearly aware of who is sponsoring this advertisement. Advertising has three distinctive models. We have cognitive, affective, and conative. The model suggests that the 6 steps can be split into 3 stages of consumer behavior. And you see those 3 here. The job of the advertisers is to promote the 3 behaviors using these 3 advertising strategies. Cognitive is thinking or learning so that the consumer becomes product aware and gathers product knowledge. Affective is related to emotion or to our feelings so that the consumer likes the product brand and has conviction in it. Conative is behavior so that the consumer buys the product brand. The tricky part for savvy advertisers is this model is known as a hierarchy because the number of consumers that move from one stage to the next reduces as you move through the model. There may be a lot of consumers who see the advertisement, but not everybody will make a purchase. It takes a lot of work to take a consumer from awareness to the final stage of purchase. The United States is considered a free market economy. Our society includes mass production, mass consumption, mass markets, mass audiences, and of course, mass communication. How else would you be able to find where you want to buy a car, you want to rent an apartment or buy a house, you want to find a job, things like that. The earliest advertising was done by the Babylonians, and they actually did ads on clay tablets. When Gutenberg invented the printing press, then there was handbills, newspaper ads, far more what would be considered a mass communication. There's several different types of ads. We have consumer ads, which are targeted at people who buy goods and services. Those are called B2C ads. Then we have B2B ads, which are business to business. So we have our direct mail, billboards, and of course we have those annoying pop-up ads that are integrated into your social media feeds. These are all forms of mass communication. Total advertising expenditure closely follows the movement of the overall economy, since businesses are generally more willing to spend more on advertising when corporate profits rise. Moreover, advertising is often one of the first expenses reduced when profits restricted. Looking back a little further than what's here on the chart, advertising expenditure experienced steady growth over the course of the previous decade, and then we plunged into the recession in 2009. However, advertising expenditure rebounded quickly because the economy returned to growth and rising to about $275 billion by 2012. Additionally, as the economy has experienced stable growth since the recession, total advertising expenditure has increased every year since 2010. In 2019, ad expenditures comprised about half of U.S. ad spending, totaling about $129 billion. Two-thirds of that was specifically on mobile ads, and you can see from the chart over here how the numbers go up and go down. With more and more people using the internet each year, it's no surprise that the digital ad market has also been growing. Digital ad spend worldwide is expected to increase over the next few years, and the U.S. is no exception to this. According to the latest data, U.S. digital ad spending is expected to hit about $271 billion this year. This is an 11% increase from 2022, when the expenditure was about $245 billion. U.S. ad spending on digital channels is forecast to continue rising over the next few years. It's projected to increase to about $298 billion next year in 2024, and then about $325 billion in 2025, which at that time it'll surpass $400 billion for the first time. This means that from 2023 to 2027, the digital ad market in the U.S. will have grown at an average annual growth rate of 8.6%. Impressive as it is, it's actually a slowdown from previous years. From 2019 to 2023, the average annual growth was more than double, about 18.6%. Advertisers uses social images such as sex appeal, celebrities, and these are used to appeal to people's psychological and physical needs. It can sell the product or sell lifestyles or images associated with the product. If you look at these two ads, you can kind of see the difference. The Budweiser ad is from a totally different era, when you'll notice how the man has the hammer and he's fixing something, and the woman is leaning over him, lovingly pouring him a nice cold beer. The other image is two young people, obviously in a sort of intimate show of emotion, far more so than the ad above it. We'll learn more about appeals in part 2. Television commercials are probably one of the most recognized ways to advertise. Rather than read through these, I'm going to kind of talk about it a little bit here. We have complaints that it creates crass consumer culture, it's called. And they're sometimes considered intrusive because we're so bombarded with ads. They use beautiful women to sell products. So we think if we buy the product, we'll be beautiful, we'll be cool, etc. There's also an exploitation of children. Soap operas derive from sponsored radio shows, which were originally dreamed up by Procter & Gamble, hence the word soap. Television commercials rely on USP, or unique selling proposition. What makes this product different from other brands? Think about M&Ms. They're unique because they melt in your mouth, not in your hands. USP is also associated through slogans and jingles. TV ads, most of them have gone from 60-second spots to 30 seconds or sometimes even down to 10 seconds to what we call blind ads, which are so short we don't even really notice them. They're more subliminal. Most television commercials today on broadcast television and what we find on streamed media are 30 seconds. Zippers and zappers is something I'm not going to go into too much because this sort of goes back to the DVR era where you could fast forward through the commercials. I like to talk about brand recognition and how that's used at an advantage. Now, McDonald's, everybody knows McDonald's. I don't care where in the world you live, you've most likely heard of McDonald's and you know what it is. They sell more ads than any other fast food brand in the world. They spent, I don't know when this was. I believe this was last year, 2022. They spent $745 million on advertising, and about $600 million of that was just on television commercials alone. That was 4 times more than Carl's Jr. spent. I want you to think back, however, and think how fast food advertising had to change with society because people at one point became far more health conscious. So these fast food places also changed their menu. They included more salads, low salt, no trans fats. Then we got into the vegan stage, the gluten-free stage. So they changed and modified and molded their product and their advertising to reach those new customer bases. There's so many categories of advertising, and there's a company called Media Radar that tracks this, and they post weekly statistics about these top-ranking companies. And I'm not going to take the time to go through this. You can actually click on this when it's the live lecture, and we can see on it and see all this data. But take a glance at this and kind of see what ranks the highest. The history of ads goes back to, like I said, the Babylonians who used clay tablets. But traditionally in print media, we had handbills or handouts or flyers, newspaper ads, magazine ads, billboards, and direct mail. And then with electronic media, that initially came out with the radio, then of course followed chronologically television, the internet, and then mobile ads. The first advertising agency was N.W. Ayers and Sons, and they planned, created, and executed advertising campaigns mostly for management level type things more so than brands. Internet advertising, it came about very soon after the internet got popular. The first thing we saw were banner ads that were at the top of a website. They were generally annoying. They flashed and beeped and did all kinds of things just to grab your attention. Then we had pop-ups, then spam. Pretty soon, now we have sponsored ads. So companies like Google and Facebook or Meta have algorithms built in that, based on what we look at, will present us with products for that. Also, if you click on something. Then we have infomercials and floating ads. You also have websites that have offers, you have extramercials, you have large rectangles on websites, and then of course we have viral advertising. The danger is the boomerang effect of internet ads because people do everything they can to turn these off. An infomercial is a commercial that runs while people wait for a web page to download. You often see these on YouTube. Extramercials are columns of ads that slide down a web page's content. Rectangles are those annoying ads that cover text in a page, so that they're generally what a pop-up would be. And floaters are animated objects that pop up like Homer Simpson running across your screen. So what's viral advertising? This changes constantly, so I'm just going to kind of go back historically what it meant. It's defined as, quote, unpaid peer-to-peer communications of provocative content originating from an identified sponsor using the internet to persuade or influence an audience to pass on the content to others. Now, this was originally defined way back in 2006. I don't think it's changed that much. The word of mouth is still sort of done through social media. Adweek has a really cool website that shows some of the best viral ads, but I have one of my favorites that I'm going to share with you.
It's been viewed by millions on YouTube, which is good news for the movie this viral video is promoting. Devil's Due is out this week, so a terrifying animatronic baby took to the streets of New York City, and filmmakers captured the public's reaction. Moving via remote control, the robotic baby scared most people who encountered it, but one man was unmoved. The baby was also filmed swearing at a police car. Devil's Due is out tomorrow.
Advertisements are now Advertising today is regulated by the government, and a lot of this came from what you've read about muckrakers and people who really advocated for awareness in products and in advertising and in stories we were reading. So I use the Latin phrase of caveat emptor, which means let the buyer beware, especially with infomercials. There's a lot of exaggerated claims that are out there, and the one it points to here is Cortislim, which actually happened here in Orange County, I believe in the late 80s. A lot of people ended up suing because they did not lose weight. It's the consumer's responsibility to determine truth in an advertising claim. Because of these tonics that were sold by them in 1906, the government passed the Pure Food and Drug Act, and in 1914, they also required an accurate labeling of products. Stereotyping in advertising, and we've seen a lot of this change, especially probably in the last several years. To the left here, you see Aunt Jemima. I grew up with Aunt Jemima. Aunt Jemima was my favorite pancake syrup, but people said it wasn't fair, and then it was stereotyping Black women as slaves. Aunt Jemima evolved as time went by, as did Betty Crocker. And if you notice, if you look back through the cake mixes, now you'll see on the right there was probably the most recent Aunt Jemima, who was no more hair scarf. She has earrings on, makeup. She looks maybe perhaps like she's a professional woman. One of the other ones I want to mention is Frito Bandito, which was one of the big characters I remember growing up for Frito-Lay products, especially he was taken off as being racist. So I don't even need to list some of these. I'm sure for those of you who looking into advertising, you'll know that some of the things that were changed a lot were stereotyping, especially amongst family roles of different family members. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy part 2 as well.